World-class, transformative organizations have emerged out of the prairies and fields of southeastern Minnesota. The Sisters of St. Francis founded St. Mary's Hospital in 1889 in Rochester and expanded it into the largest and finest privately owned hospital in the country. Dr. William Worrell Mayo and his sons collaborated with many talented men and women to establish Mayo Clinic. Hormel Institute, a leading biomedical research center dedicated to prevention and treatment therapies for cancer and chronic diseases, arose from Hormel Foods in Austin. An innovator and international leader in the production of computers, IBM opened a research and development plant in Rochester. Out of this rich heritage, University of Minnesota Rochester emerged in 2006. But UMR's story begins much earlier than that. As St. Mary's Hospital and Mayo Clinic grew, there was a need for additional educational opportunities. In 1915, Dr. Charles H. Mayo made a motion before the school board to establish a 2-year college in Rochester. In making this bold proposal, Dr. Charlie demonstrated that he wasn't afraid of being wrong. He considered every day the opening of a door to new adventure. The establishment of the first junior college in Minnesota is proof that the Rochester community valued education from the beginning. In 1966, University of Minnesota opened a center in Rochester to offer continuing education classes. By the 1970s, a small staff worked in offices leased at the state hospital. The courses and programs were focused on meeting the needs of the businesses and adults in the community. At the time, continuing education for teachers and some technical courses for IBM employees was needed the most. Faculty came from the Twin Cities campus. Classes were held in one classroom at the state hospital, and others were held at Holiday Inn South. During the 1960s and into the 1970s, many citizens and business leaders funded expansions of the programs offered by the university, but ultimately, they wanted more than a menu of course offerings. They tried to expand into a branch of the University of Minnesota, hoping to have 4 years of college, full degree programs available in Rochester. While many people wanted a branch, not everyone was supportive. The state colleges and universities were concerned about the impact it might have on their student enrollment. The process was a roller coaster of progress and setbacks. The community's perseverance paid off, and in 1979, thanks to a gift from the Dr. Morse Friedel family, alumni of the University of Minnesota, the staff offices and classrooms were moved to a remodeled furniture store, the Friedel Building in Rochester.
The Friedel Building got the ball rolling in the sense that it was a location that was strictly University of Minnesota.
Course offerings expanded with the move into the Friedel Building. Education, psychology, computer science, real estate, agriculture, and nursing courses were available.
Well, there were no opportunities in Rochester to pursue an advanced degree. IBM had that need for a stronger presence of the University of Minnesota in Rochester, particularly focused on technology.
In 1986, the city of Rochester, Olmsted County, area businesses, legislators, and private individuals formed the Greater Rochester Area University Center, referred to as GROUC.
In the early days of GROUC, the GROUC organization, one of their main thrusts early on was bringing more programs down from the University of Minnesota, Twin Cities campus.
The mission of this group of dedicated people was to determine the future of higher education in Rochester based on the needs of students and businesses. Sandy Keith, who later became Chief Justice of the Minnesota Supreme Court, was the first chairman of GROUC, and IBM loaned an executive to provide administrative support. High-ranking leaders from IBM, Mayo Clinic, and local businesses, as well as legislators, advocated for expanded higher education opportunities in Rochester. GROUC's efforts were successful. In early 1991, Governor Arne Carlson authorized a budget of $17 million to build a university center on the campus of Rochester Community College. This center would house Winona State and the University of Minnesota in addition to the community college. In 1993, University Center Rochester opened. This gave the University of Minnesota the opportunity to add staff and programs. While growth occurred in the new facilities, soon space and resources became a constraint again as all three University Center institutions grew. And the University of Minnesota Rochester Center was still dependent on departments from other campuses for much of its programming. They could not offer a four-year degree without becoming a campus. In 1999, the university regents endorsed a proposal for a campus, but the funding encountered opposition because higher education enrollments were beginning to decline in the area. Despite the concerns, the Minnesota legislature authorized use of language to call University of Minnesota in Rochester a branch campus, and approved growth in upper division, graduate, and professional education. The legislature approved funding. In the midst of the controversy, an interim provost, Mary Heltzley, was appointed by the university. She became an important conduit between the various constituencies in Rochester and the university administration in the Twin Cities. In 2000, a permanent provost, David Carl, was appointed in Rochester. He began working with the community and legislators.
The community had a very clear idea as to what it wanted to do, and it wanted its own university.
We marched into Brunick's office and said, okay, we want to know what we have to do to become a branch. He said to me, Marilyn, it isn't that easy.
And I love Rochester for so many reasons, and one is, if we don't have something, we'll create it.
We did this strategic planning. We decided that we had to go for U of M. We decided how we're going to get there. We found out how much it was going to cost. Then we got the right governor.
We all need to grasp the importance of the Rochester model. Why? Because they have seamlessly integrated science, technology, infrastructure, entrepreneurship, a partnering role for government, and lots of hard work.
Governor Pawlenty, in his State of the State speech, he said we must have a four-year university in Rochester.
And my budget announcement next week will include more than $3 million to get this new university leadership structure started, staffed, and paid for.
I think there were opinions in the Rochester community and maybe even in the broader state about what ought to happen here. But the governor really wanted to have a process that allowed for the ideas to bubble up and base what ultimately was going to be implemented, based it on data.
He appointed an 11-person task force to complete the planning. Marilyn Stewart was appointed as chair. The task force obtained input from the community, business leaders, and higher education institutions in the area to determine the specific needs. Mayo Clinic and IBM remained ardent supporters of expanded higher education opportunities with a connection to a major research institution.
It was actually one of the most interesting meetings I've ever been in. It was in the basement of the Edina Realty. Legislators, community leaders, the press, the group sat in this U-shaped setting. The audience, the public, sat back here, and it was like you were on stage.
But the community on every level was there for us.
But I was amazed and really impressed, and certainly the governor was. When we'd come down here, everybody would show up. I mean, it's like you have a citywide booster club. It was phenomenal.
President Brunick, he said, look, no place else that I've ever heard of has the community put forward millions of dollars to create their own school. We've got to sit up, pay attention, and support what it is these folks have in mind.
The discussion went round and round.
There were folks here who wanted, a full campus, a football team, a marching band. I mean, those are all the things that you have at the University of Minnesota.
It was wonderful but serious debate. This project was massive. You had people from different institutions, different walks of life, and in the end, consensus was achieved.
Marilyn Stewart and the task force delivered their report with an $86 million price tag to Governor Pawlenty in January 2006, recommending that a campus of the University of Minnesota be established in Rochester, providing a 4-year degree in health sciences.
We were not going to duplicate anything anybody else did. They researched all the time, what is it that we can develop here that they're not doing in other places? We wanted world-class courses.
They would focus on healthcare and technology because those are the strengths of our community.
On December 6, 2006, the University Board of Regents approved the task force's report. This set in motion recruiting a chancellor, finding a campus, and hiring faculty and staff, everything necessary to become University of Minnesota Rochester, a degree-awarding 4-year institution. This approval was the culmination of 40 years of efforts by local citizens, business leaders, and legislators to expand higher education opportunities in Rochester. This consortium of altruistic, passionate, visionary, and persistent people made it happen. Like Dr. Charlie Mayo and the school board that started the first junior college in Minnesota in 1915, the community again demonstrated its commitment to education.
We wouldn't give up. You don't give up till you get what you're after.
University of Minnesota Rochester was founded on traditions of world-class quality, innovation, and community collaboration.